So a lot of people have been asking about my settings, and instead of going through every single setting, I thought I'd focus on the top 9 that I think people are making mistakes with, so I can clear up some of the areas and hopefully guide you in the right direction. So if you enjoy the video or find it helpful in some way, please do me a favor hitting that like button, and if you're brand new to the channel, like to find your way back, make sure you do subscribe with notifications on, because YouTube is currently telling me that about 61% of you that watch my content on a regular basis have yet to subscribe. So the first setting I think a lot of people tend to make a mistake with is leaving the button layout preset to default. Typically what you're going to want to do is take advantage of some of the other button layouts, and one good route to go is to go tactical or bumper jumper or even do stick and move. And on top of that, once you've gone ahead and chosen one of those particular button layouts, you can go ahead and flip the triggers so that you can actually aim down sight with the front buttons versus the actual triggers. And this will make your buttons a little bit more responsive, because with the triggers there's always a little bit of give, which inherently just makes them a little bit less responsive. So one of the benefits with tactical is you can do drop shots, so that's a lot of reason why people tend to go with the tactical route. But if you like jumping with your bumpers and you can aim down sight and get used to that, bumper jumper's a good way to go. And if you like jump shotting, stick and move is definitely the way to go. Even though it's not as effective in this game, you can still maximize any of these as long as you're able to adapt to it. So the second setting that I think stumbling a lot of players is the aim response curve. And the reason for that is because we actually have options. We've never had these options within Call of Duty, but I want to go ahead and try to make it as clear as possible, and I can actually put on something on screen that will serve as a demonstration, so it's a lot clearer for you what exactly is going on when you choose one of these different aim response curve types. Standard is what we've had in Call of Duty. There is a little bit of S-curve action that's happening to it, but it's very subtle, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that on screen. In addition to that, we also now have an option to go linear, which makes it so that it'll record the raw input. So literally what you're doing on the right analog stick will translate into the game, which I think will end up being very popular in the long run. But it's just all a matter of preference. I think between standard and linear, there's not a significant difference enough where you're gonna notice it firsthand. It's gonna take a long time to figure out if there's even a difference. But for the most part, standard and linear, not really going to be a bad choice either way. But I think where people can make a huge mistake is going into dynamic. The reason for a dynamic is because it has a reverse S curve, which you can see on the screen, and this will allow you to have different sensitivities depending on how far you move your analog stick. So in the shorter medium range, which you can see on the screen, it doesn't move all that much, but as soon as you go ahead and push it beyond that middle ring, then it ends up increasing that sensitivity. So this one's going to be very difficult for people to control because it has variable sensitivity to a certain extent. So I highly recommend just sticking with standard if that's what you're accustomed to doing, because that's what we've always had in Call of Duty. Or you can go ahead and kind of experiment with linear and see how you like that raw input. For the most part, you're probably not going to notice the difference between these two, but I would definitely advise against going with that dynamic. Next up is the sensitivity, and there's actually a lot of different options with the sensitivity. I actually have a video that covers this entirely, how to find the perfect sensitivity for you. Some people will go with an 8 horizontal and a 6 vertical, or a 7 horizontal and a 6 vertical, or vice versa. They'll go ahead and swap that around. It really comes down to preference. At the end of the day, all that really matters is that you're able to hit your shots. So if you're able to hit your shots at 12, more power to you. If you can't hit your shots unless your sensitivity is a 3, cool. No one's gonna hate on you for that. Just find the right sensitivity that works for you all of the time. And then on top of that, what they've introduced in Black Ops 4 was additional aim down sight sensitivity for low zoom as well as high zoom, and this actually kicks in at the multiplayer of 3.25. so if it's less than that, that's going to be the low zoom. If it's above that, then you're going to go ahead and get kicked into that high zoom category. Typically what I like to do is, if I'm going to be using a low zoom weapon, that's typically a regular sight that you're going to have on most rifles, SMGs, or whatever the case is. If I'm going to go that route, then what I'm going to do is want to make sure I'm able to control that sensitivity and have that at 0.8. When it comes to the higher zoom sensitivity, some people want to go ahead and drag that up, because when you're sniping, typically you're going to want to be able to track targets a little bit faster because they're going to be at distance. So it really depends. Some people want that to be as consistent as all the other zooms. That's perfectly fine as well. But sometimes targets, when they're a little bit further away, I like to put this one up just a little bit higher, so I'm able to track those targets a little bit better And keep in mind, when we get to the aim assist setting, you're going to want to switch this up depending on what weapon you're using. I'm going to go ahead and explain that part as well. So in my video where I broke down how to get the perfect accuracy on your horizontal and vertical sensitivities, I also broke down the aim assist. And there's actually 4 different types of aim assist. What we normally have in Call of Duty is we usually have it disabled, or we have standard. We usually don't have any options beyond that. One thing to keep in mind is with this game, they decided to give us a few more options. They gave us precision, which is supposed to be for very accurate players. And then there's focusing, which is supposed to be for a little bit newer players to controller gaming. So based off my testing, 99% of the time, you're going to want to go ahead and run standard, because what happens is there's 2 different types of aim assist. There's rotational aim assist, as well as aim down sight slowdown. If you're moving your feet, your crosshairs will naturally want to track your target, which is very beneficial, especially in closer range engagements. And pretty much how the aim down sight slowdown works is if you're going to go ahead and put your crosshairs over an enemy, it'll go ahead and slow down to kind of give you a lock on effect, even though it's not literally locking on. You still got to control it with your analog stick. And standard is the only form of aim assist in this game that actually gives you rotational aim assist along with that aim down sight slowdown. What that really means is that if you go ahead and jump in with precision and focusing, you're not going to get that rotational aim assist. So if you're moving your feet, you're not going to get that sticky aim that you're accustomed to getting within Call of Duty. But one thing I did really notice with the precision is that the slowdown is much stronger, so it kind of offsets not having that rotational aim assist, which is perfect when using snipers. Because when you use snipers, you're not generally strafing in a gunfight. What you are is doing is locking onto a target, kind of tracking onto them, and this will help you especially in those very far ranges. So I highly recommend using standard when you're using anything but a sniper, and I recommend using precision when you're using a sniper rifle. So the 5th thing that I think a lot of people don't even talk about, and I've actually seen a lot best settings video, and they don't tend to include this part at all, and it's in regards to the safe area. And this actually adjusts your heads-up display area, safe area they call it. And when you click on the safe area, and most people are just going to follow the directions on the screen. They're going to go ahead and put this safe area to as big as possible. They're going to make it match the edge of their screen. And what they don't notice is they're actually making it so their eyes have to work overtime. And what you'll notice is on my game, you can see that the mini map is not so close to the corner. You can see that all the other stuff is kind of pushed in a little bit towards where my eyes are looking a majority of the time. This makes it so that your eyes can move from the center of the screen up to the top left, to the compass, back to wherever you need to look on the screen, check your ammo, or whatever the case is. And even though that area isn't a huge difference, that work that your eyes have to do will make it a little bit easier to focus on all the different things that you have to focus on within the game. So the 6th tip is in regards to film grain. You're going to want to make sure you turn this all the way down. You can literally look at this photo, which one looks clear to you, and it's a no-brainer. If you put it higher, you're going to get this grainy look, and it's going to make it hard to see details. Obviously on the left, everything is perfectly clear and easy to see. That one's a pretty straightforward one. It's kind of obvious there. And the 6th tip comes back to motion blur. Even in the description, it says disabled will remove blurring of moving objects. And if you have it enabled, it will simulate blurring of moving objects. Which obviously, if you look at those 2 screens, which one looks clear to you? And it says the exact same thing for this one. Obviously, if you look at the 2 screenshots, which one looks clear to you? You're obviously going to want things to be as clear as possible. Obviously, if you're playing the campaign, you care about the immersion, you might want to turn these things on, but when it comes to multiplayer, you're going to want to have every advantage when you're looking at things to be as clear as possible, and this goes a long way in making sure that that's possible. Let's go ahead and jump over to the audio settings, and this is going to actually be the 8th tip. And I think a lot of people are confused with the audio mix as well as the different volume settings they want to go ahead and change. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the best ones. Pretty much from the beta, they went ahead and changed all the descriptions, so that made it even more confusing for people. Personally, I just give the edge to boost high over boost low. But if you want to compare these, you're more than capable of doing that. You can go ahead and click more info with R3, and it'll actually show the different audio presets. And you can actually just go ahead and press play on the bottom of the screen and it'll play some audio for you. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and focus on these individual volume settings. Since you can adjust your settings on your headset, your TV, or whatever the case is, Go ahead and make sure this is the master volume is as high as possible. And then when it comes to the music, you're going to want to go ahead and lower this quite a bit, whether it's at 25, 0, 40, or whatever the case is. You can pretty much lower it to whatever you want, but ideally you're going to want it less than 50. The same could be said for the dialogue. This is literally the voiceover audio. So this will be the announcer saying, hey, the game's close, or they just captured A. You don't really want that all that loud because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the game, and that can be very distracting. What you really want to listen to is be able to hear where people are coming from, and that really comes down to footsteps as well as a few other noises. So because of that, you're going to want effects to be 100%, and that's going to bring us to the 9th biggest mistake I think a lot of people are making, and that is disabling crossplay. People don't understand how big a deal crossplay is because there's still a lot of confusion. What I mean by that is people think that if I go ahead and plug in my controller to my PC, I'm gonna go ahead and play against other mouse and keyboard players on PC, but that's not how it works. It's input-based matchmaking. So if I go ahead and plug in my controller to my PC, I'm gonna play with other controller players on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4. And if I'm on a PlayStation 4 and I plug in my keyboard and mouse, I'm gonna play against other keyboard and mouse players on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4. So if you go ahead and disable this, you're only gonna play with people on your specific platform that also have it disabled. So I highly recommend just leaving this one enabled. So I went ahead and covered the top 9 tips that I think people tend to make a mistake with. Hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new to the channel, like to find your way back, make sure you do subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.